Hi boys and girls, welcome to Outdoors with Mr. White. I'm Mr. White and we're outdoors. Today we're going to talk about an interesting topic that I really like, and it is pathways. And I'm on a path right now. This is an old road and I've taken this path many times. You take pathways all of the time. When you go to school, you have a certain path that you take. When you leave the school and you go home, you take a pathway home. Your parents, if they go to work, they drive a certain way or they walk a certain way. We all take pathways all of the time. Outside, animals are the same way. In nature, animals take pathways. We're going to go take a look today to see if we can find some paths that animals make, and we're going to see how we can learn from animals and learn about the pathways that we take ourselves as people. So come on, let's get down this pathway and we'll do some discovering too. Boys and girls, sometimes these roads, which are made by people, are great pathways to get through the woods. Animals find it easier to follow this path too. Boys and girls, here's a smaller path. I could probably pedal a bike down here, but I really like to walk. So this is a smaller path. And we have a tree down in our path now. So I usually walk right down through here, and this little tree has fallen over. So this is now an obstacle. So sometimes when you're on your journey or you're on your path, something will get in the way like this tree. And it's not that big of a tree, so I can probably lift it and go under. Or I could probably just go around. I can find a new path. So let's see if we can go around this tree. There, that wasn't so hard. Now we're past our tree and we're ready to go down our path again. Oh, boys and girls, look at this. Another old tree fell down on our path, and I want to go over there, but I have to find a way. Maybe what I'll do is, maybe I'll step over this obstacle instead of going around it. Some obstacles that we face, we have to go around. Some obstacles we face, we have to go over. You ready to come with me? We'll crash through it. Here we go. Boys and girls, look at this. You see this little line right here? And look, there's a little hole right there. And this line goes right across our path. And look, it goes right in to another little hole right there. So what this is, you can see it. This is a pathway for probably a little mouse. He definitely has a pathway going right across our path. That's kind of cool. Two paths are crisscrossing again. Boys and girls, I want to show you from this waterway over here, there's a path that comes up over the dike, over in front of us, and all the way down the other side, and he's got a little pathway, you can see it right there going into the other waterway. And this was a path that was used by a muskrat, and he would go back and forth, and it was pretty safe for him. But I have evidence that maybe one day it wasn't safe for him, and maybe he got picked off by a bird. Sometimes eagles and things fly over. Look at this. This is his skull, and this is a muskrat skull, and that's all that's left of him. And you can see where his eyes used to be and his little teeth. And I think he probably was coming across here and he was being watched by an eagle, and maybe the eagle got him, and now he ended up being the eagle's supper. Okay, boys and girls, I'm at the edge of these woods, and there's a big thing called the choppings over here. All the trees have been cut, and there's all kinds of branches and dead trees that are left all over the ground. It's just kind of like a messy bedroom, like somebody messed it all up and they didn't clean it up. It's a terrible mess. And so over here is the woods, and over there is the messy bedroom, sticks and twigs and everything, and I have to figure out where I'm going to go. But what I'm going to do is, in between, there's kind of a path. It's full of water now, it's like a puddle, but there seems like an easier path to walk up there. So I have to make a decision now. This is my part. This is where I'm in control. Do I go through the woods over there, or do I go up through the messy bedroom, all the sticks, or do I try to follow this path? And after looking at it, I think the woods might be a little bit hard because there's some obstacles. There's trees and messy stuff laying down there, and there's a lot of messy stuff over there. So I'm going to take this open trail. Boys and girls, I want to show you this path that's going down. You can see a deer track right there even. And this pathway is all black and there's nothing growing on it, and it's very, very soaked and wet. And the reason is because the deer walk here so often that they've killed all the grass and the moss that's going on this road, on this little pathway, and they travel it all the time. They walk this in the morning or at night or any time that they're going from maybe where they sleep to where they eat. They take this little pathway. I know that because I've seen the deer tracks on here, and I've seen deer walking on this little path. But that presents a problem. What kind of a problem do you think that would mean? Well, if somebody was looking for a deer, if you were a deer hunter and you wanted to find a deer, this would be a great place to come, because this path is exactly where some deer are going to be. So a person sat here long enough, and we talked a little while ago about how we crossed paths with the mouse or crossed paths with the deer. Here, I could sit here and I could wait, and eventually a deer may walk right down this trail, and then I could see him if I was a hunter, or if I just wanted to take some pictures of him. I could sit on this deer trail. It's a good place to watch a pathway. They're very predictable. When you go in your bedroom and you go to your bathroom, you take a pathway. When your daddy or your mommy goes from downstairs or into the kitchen into the living room, they take a certain pathway. And if you watch people, they'll take that same pathway over and over. It's the same with animals. They'll take the same path where they feel safe. But when somebody discovers it, when a deer hunter discovers this pathway, that helps the deer hunter, because the deer hunter knows where the deer are going to be. I want to show you something else here. Not only do you see the deer trail coming down, but there are other signs that this is a pathway for deer. Now, just over here on the side, you'll see a tree. You'll see a tree that's got all of its bark all rubbed up. And this is a rub. And what happens is a deer takes his antlers, a boy deer, and he puts it against it, and he rubs up and down and up and down and up and down. If I see this rub and I see that nice trail, that nice pathway, this is a good spot to look for some deer. Boys and girls, I wanted to sit down just for a minute to talk about the importance of pathways. It's very important when I'm outside that I follow a pathway, and I know the path gets me to where I want to go, and I know I follow the path to get me back to my truck or back to my home. So pathways are very important. If you stay on your pathway, you don't get lost. And people that get lost in the woods is because they've gone off of their pathway. They don't intend to get lost, they end up somewhere else, and now they're lost. So if you ever do go into the woods, stay on the path that you're supposed to be. It's fun to explore, but until you know how to get from someplace that you don't know back to where you do know, just stay to the pathways that are designated for you. So if you go to a hiking trail, stay on the path. If I'm in the woods and I'm walking down this road, I stay on this road so that I don't get lost. I'm going to talk to the hockey players for a second. When you're on the ice and you have the puck and you're skating from your end down to the other end, heading towards the net, you have to think in your head, which pathway am I going to take? Am I going to shoot it up the boards and go around the other side? Or am I going to try to squeeze myself and the puck through that side and go up? Or am I going to go through the middle curvy? Sidney Crosby and Nathan MacKinnon are very, very good at picking pathways through hockey players. They have obstacles just like we had in the woods, the big sticks and the big trees laying in front of us in the woods. Well, when Sidney Crosby and Nathan MacKinnon are on the ice, they have players that are standing in front of them, and they're trying to stop those guys from making it to the net. Those two guys are so good because they're able to think, how can I get this puck and how can I get around all these players and make it to the net? So if you're a hockey player, I want you to work on those skills. I want you to think, how am I going to get this puck right now all the way up the ice or up the road if we're playing road hockey and get to the net? And when I don't have the puck and I'm going off to the side, if you have the puck and I'm going the other way, I have to think, what pathway am I going to take in order for you to pass the ball or pass the puck to me? So pathways are very, very important in hockey. Boys and girls, just like hockey, in basketball, and I'll talk to the basketball players for a second. In basketball, it's very important for you to know which pathway you're going to take when you're going down the court. If you're dribbling the basketball and you want to go all the way to the other net, you have to think, how am I going to make it down there? Am I going to run straight up through the middle, or am I going to go slow, or am I going to pass to somebody? I have to make a pathway down to the other net, and the ball has to make a pathway. Sometimes I'm the one dribbling it all the way. Sometimes I'm going to send the ball on a different path. I'm going to pass it over to you, and you can pass it back to me, and I can pass it back to you, and we can pass back and forth. So if we come up with some creative ways of moving the basketball down the court, we can be a good team. So some of the best basketball players in the world are very, very good at getting that ball on a cool pathway all the way down the court, down to the other end. So if you're a basketball player, get outside and think about it. If your brother or your sister or your mom or dad in front of you and they're trying to stop you, they are an obstacle. They're standing in the way of you trying to make it to the net. So I have to figure out, how am I going to dribble, or how am I going to get the ball and me around them and get to the net and score. So think about that if you're a basketball player. Pathways are very, very important. Boys and girls, another great sport and activity that involves pathways is gymnastics. And I love watching gymnastics. And I watch the gymnasts start at one end of the mat, and what they do is they have to go from this side of the mat to the other end of the mat, but they get points and they get value for how creative they are and all the different cool things that they do with their body when they go. So you might see somebody start at this end of their mat, and as they start to go to the other end of the mat, they might do cartwheels, and they might do a backflip, or they might do a somersault, or a log roll, or a pencil roll, or something that we've learned in school. And when they finish, the judges look at them and go, wow, that was a very neat pathway that you took on them. And there's all kinds of sports that have pathways in them. Even if I'm a bowler, I can go to the bowling alley and I have to take that ball and I have to look down there at the pins and I have to say, okay, how can I get this ball down there that knocks them all out? So I try to send it on a straight pathway down the middle and hit that king pin and knock them all out. Some people are very good and they can put spins on the ball and make them go. So if you're very, very smart and you think about it, you think about your sport, your favorite activity, or your favorite game, and say, how can I think about pathways in this game? Is it going to be the direction I'm going? Is it going to be the direction I'm sending something? So the very, very good athletes and the very, very good sports people and the good game players are usually very, very smart with pathways. They're very aware of their pathway. So when you're out, I want you to think of your pathway. Well, boys and girls, I hope you had fun outdoors with Mr. White. We talked about nature's pathways and how deer make a path and they stick to it a lot when they feel safe on that path. And we saw a muskrat path that went from one pond into another pond. We also discussed how pathways are important in our sports and our activities and our games. And you hockey players and basketball players and gymnasts and anybody who plays in any kind of a sport, if you really think about it, I bet you can find the paths that you take in your sport. And in order to be a very good player at your activity or your game or your sport, you need to improve that pathway making decision stuff. So the animals that live in the wild, out in nature, are alive and they survive because they make good decisions on their pathways. So I want you to make good decisions with your pathways, develop them, and make them as good as you can make them. Boys and girls, here's this week's pathway challenge. It involves the number 3. And here's what I want you to do. On day 1, I want you to go out and I want you to find a path. I want you to walk that path or run that path or bike that path. It doesn't matter. It could just be on the sidewalk around your block. That's great. That's pathway number 1. The second day you go out, I want you to pick a different pathway, a different route, a different road. So you could do bike all 3 days or walk all 3 days, but you have to pick a different direction, different pathway, okay? So the first one, maybe I'll go around the block on this side of my house. The next day, maybe I'll go all the way to school and back. And then on the third day, it's up to you. But I want you to make good decisions. I want you to be safe. Pick a pathway that's very safe. Don't be like Mr. Muskrat and pick a pathway that's kind of dangerous. He had a safe path, but he didn't look up one day. And that's what happened to him. So he could have been a little more safe. So I want you to be as safe as you possibly can. Okay? 3 different pathways, 3 different days. Be very careful and think about your path. And when you're playing your sports and your activities, think about how you can make that pathway better and how you can be a better player or a better gymnast or a better whatever. Okay? But pathways are very, very important, and I want you to remember that. Take care. Thanks for coming with me today outdoors with Mr. White.